to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Please be seated and silence and cell phones, pagers, and such. Item 2, citizens' concerns. Do we have anybody that wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, I will move approval of today's agenda.
Second.
Motion by DeWitt, second by Radig. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Items 4 through 8 constitute a consent agenda, routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 4 is approval of the minutes of the October 12 meeting. 5, approval of claims. 6, county auditor. A, receive county recorder's report of fees collected. B, approval of agreement for electronic provision for Woodbury County Recorder's Office public record images. 7, receive Commission of Veterans Affairs quarterly report. 8, human resources. A is approval of memorandum of personnel transactions, and B is authorization to initiate hiring process. Are there any questions on the consent agenda? I will move approval of consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by DeWitt, second by Monson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Looks like time to start the public hearing. Nope, too early, or what do you want, Mr. Gill? All right, item 9 is board administration. Public hearing and sale of property parcel ending in 021, also known as 1619 Pierce Street. Is there anybody that's here wants to speak in favor of or against the sale of this property?
Hearing no one, I move we close the hearing.
Motion by Monson, second by DeWitt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. We are now in the sale portion of the property sale. Is there anybody that wishes to bid on the property at 1619 Pierce Street? If so, please come to the podium. Give your name and address, please.
Danny Robinson, 1515 Goldie, Sioux City, Iowa.
And
Goldie Avenue.
do you wish to make a bid on the property?
Bid the minimum bid, yes.
And that is $374.
Yes.
Is there anybody else wishing to bid? Hearing none, I move the sale of the property for total minimum plus recording fees goes to Mr. Robinson.
Second.
Motion by DeWitt, second by Monson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Mr. Robinson, you can talk with Heather. Thank you very much. Item 10. Rolling Hills. Regional update.
Good afternoon. I'm in the process.
Can you put the
currently-
mic just a little bit higher?
Is that better?
I think so.
Okay. I'm in the process currently of going out to all of the member counties in Rolling Hills and providing you with an update on our core service development, as well as the funding changes that are on the horizon as a result of Senate File 619 that was passed this last legislative session. So we have had quite a few changes over the last, I would say, 3 to 4 months in terms of the assessment center property out on Division Street. The Rolling Hills Regional Board did purchase the property from the Sioux Rivers region. You may be aware of that because Rocky was involved with that. We recently, at our governance board meeting, also approved a remodel of the facility. We are going to be adding a wing onto the assessment center, which already has 23-hour observation and crisis residential services. We will be adding some subacute beds, which is going to be a step down out of a hospital environment if a person doesn't need that acuity of an inpatient setting. So we're hoping to have that service up and running by July of next year. And the reason that that is important is because the regions are going to be entering into performance-based contracts with DHS on January 1st of this year. So there are going to be specific benchmarks that we have to meet in compliance standards in order for our future state funding to not be affected. So, did you have a question?
Sure, are you already staffed for all of that?
That's my concern. Okay, so Sula Mental Health provides that service, and right now what they are doing currently, yes. Have I given thought to the concern of workforce shortage? Absolutely. And particularly because of the need for specialized service providers to be able to meet this level of care.
And what about expertise? Forget numbers for a second. You
Sure.
have the people around that know how to get that stuff
Yeah,
out accurately and effectively?
I believe so, yes, because the rules do require specific disciplines to work in that type of a setting. So there has to be a qualified nurse, a psychiatrist that can consult. So we're not talking just, someone with a high school diploma. I mean, they definitely have to meet certain requirements to be able to provide that. So yes, at least we're in more of an urban setting. It's the most urban county in our 10 counties. And so if it's going to be anywhere, I'm glad it's going to be designated here because we're going to have a bigger draw. So with the performance-based contracts then, we are going to be switching over next year as a result of Senate File 619 from any tax levy. So this is your last year that you had to levy for mental health. January 1st next year. July, sorry. It will be 100% state funded, and if we are out of compliance in any fashion with our contract, the state has the authority to withhold our third and fourth quarter payments next year up to 15%. This is the year also that all the regions have to be down to a 40% fund balance. Right now, we are sitting on probably an 70 to 80% fund balance when you take the counties and the region as an aggregate. And so our goal is to invest in the services that we need to be in compliance so that we don't have our funding jeopardized going forward. And then subsequent years, after the 40%, we have to be down to 20% in fiscal year 24, and then beyond that, 5%. So for us, it's going to be a huge challenge. So, and it's obviously a goal of mine to make sure we have all the services that we need to be in compliance so that our funding stays intact. We did take a hit in this new legislation this year because we had set our budget on a $39 per capita, and we were reduced down with the tax levies being reduced to $21.14. And with the state appropriation, we lost $2 per capita. So we had to use our reserve dollars to be able to make up that deficit in our budget. So it's really a moving target, and it's never been the way that I put a budget together. I usually determine what we need and then recommend a levy to the counties, and now it's completely going to be the opposite. So just wanted to make sure you're all aware of that. And then the other thing that I'm trying to make boards aware of is your fund balance. So whatever fund balance is sitting in Fund 10 at the end of this fiscal year is advanced to the region. It's required that it all be advanced. So I just don't want that to become as a surprise to any of you next year when we ask for your reserve balance to be forwarded on. So, and then Fund 10 is eliminated, so you won't have a mental health fund. However, you will still have employees. So right now, the Department of Management is trying to determine how they are going to pay for the staff in the general fund. And Dennis and I had this discussion yesterday on how it's going to be such a nightmare to try to determine what is regional dollars when you mix it into the general supplemental fund balance. So that they're still trying to determine that. I think they're looking at Fund 6, which used to be your old case management fund. In my mind, why do we have to change it? If we've already got a fund designated where the dollars are passing through, leave Fund 10 alone, but it was eliminated with this new bill. So, and DHS is gonna have the authority, and, as far as the governance board will continue to meet as long as they so choose. We're hoping that we'll get through this year, and then we'll determine, going forward how that's all gonna work, because the decision-making capacity lies within the hands of DHS.
What do we got in fund balance?
Well, right now, it's probably it's pretty high because you've collected your taxes for September, and I just sent out invoices for the contributions. Yeah, I'd have to look. I could definitely get back to you, though.
So this performance-based, how does that affect the local provider? It seems to me we're doing that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to affect a lot of things, not only the providers. It's going to, I mean, if we lose 15% of our $8.9 million budget, that's significant. And then we're going to have to look at what we have to do because of core requirements versus what is optional. And we do have a lot of optional services that we are funding to make our system work. So yeah, everybody's going to feel the trickle-down effect. And then the other component to this is that there, in the performance-based contract, there is a stipulation that there has to be a study done by DHS by the end of fiscal year '23 to look at administrative costs within the region and set a cap. So we've got, you know, an administrative cost of $1 million between all of our counties, and they could say that's too high and cut it, and then where are we going to cut? So.
Based on the number of counties or the capita or the?
Well, our administrative costs are primarily salary and benefits. And, you know, we've got.
How would they say it? I mean, do we have any idea how they would say it?
They've got to further define it before they decide if the salaries of the service coordinators is administrative. Right now, we pay it as an administrative expense back to the counties. So that remains to be seen.
They're going to take away the funding for that administrative salaries, but they'll still be employed by the county?
The DHS is going to give us a contribution, an allocation. And within that allocation, if we get everything that we are supposed to receive, then we pay salaries based out of that, but they will still be county employees, not state, at this point. So with that, you know, comes liability for employing staff that are not funded with county dollars. So, and that has been a discussion that we've had at the governance board level as well as having questions from other boards about it.
Well, first, thank you for coming, because I couldn't explain it the way you did, from trying to come back on it.
I live it every day, Rocky.
I know you do, and I come back with basics and
Sure.
so thank
Yeah.
you for being here and explaining.
It's been
that.
helpful getting out to all the counties. You know, I think everybody's pretty in tune with the legislation, the bare, you know, bones of it, what really is going to affect the counties. But I think it's just good to make sure you guys understand what's going to happen going forward. So, especially with the fund balance being advanced. So,
Well, I had a question come up actually today. If the governor or the governance board, the regions are dissolved, then what does the property on Division Street go back to? I know we talked about this in a meeting, but remind me, please.
right. So the 28E does have a provision in there for term and termination or dissolution of the region. And so basically, it states now that any property that is owned by the region will be split up, and those dollars go back to the counties. Now, that's the way it reads now, and whether DHS is going to, you know, try to get legislative action, that it goes to the state, that has not been discussed. So it remains within the counties, so you could put it back in your general fund or general supplemental if that happens. But
So good questions, not really good answers.
no,
Yeah.
I have information, but I don't have all the answers.
And then I'm not trying to paint you in a corner,
Yeah,
I'm just
no,
saying. that-
I understand their concerns, definitely.
I got 100 questions, but I'm not going to do it.
Call me. That's all the time that I want to take of yours today. I know you've got other things that you want to get through today, so no more questions, and
I want to thank you for all that you've done.
yeah, it's been great having Woodbury County come on board, and we picked up Humboldt and Pocahontas this year as well, and it's.
Even one certain retired supervisor mentioned that Woodbury County wasn't that bad.
I just met with that board this morning, and he had to eat that. I just mentioned to him that,
I like throwing it at him every once in a while.
oh, yeah, and I did mention his name during the meeting. So,
Who was that?
Cecil.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. No, he did tell me at the last meeting he came to that I have to finally admit it, Dawn. It's a good thing we took Woodbury County, so. Yeah. All right, thank you all for your time.
Thank you, thank you. Item 11 is secondary roads. A, approve the contract for overburden removal in the Little Sioux Park gravel pit with Leroy and Sons.
We have the contract for overburden excavation for $85,600 with Leroy and Sons. Recommend approval of the contract.
Move it.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Passes 5-0. Item B, approve the contract for gravel production with Bedrock Gravel for $469,000.
I recommend approval of the contract. This is for crushed gravel and wash sand that we use for winter snow removal. Stockpile both.
Move it.
Second.
Motion by Monson, second by Raddick. Further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Passes 5-0. This is, Mark, on this merchants, this is all the same one, right?
Yeah, it should be the same place in each bond. Well, everywhere there's a tab, it needs your signature.
Okay.
Depends on who the bonding company is, whether the board chair has to sign it or not. They're using merchants, which requires that signature.
All right, there's one. You can wait patiently, sir.
Of course. Okay. It just takes me a while to get up and stretch my hips. So I'm giving myself warm-up time.
Starting to sound like me. Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
I want you to have to wait for me to go.
At least you're not doing downward-facing dog back there.
Yeah. Jumping jacks.
Item 12, County Sheriff, approve the reclassification of 3 AFSCME senior clerks to Clerk 3 within the Sheriff's Office.
I at times feel like the Tin Man, where I feel like I need the oil can. I've got some sheets here that just kind of explain a little bit of the.
These are the job descriptions.
No, these are the financial part. The
Oh,
job
okay.
descriptions are not finalized yet. I talked to Melissa today.
Move to receive the documents.
Second.
Motion by DeWitt, second by Raddick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Jamal and Josh.
Passes 5-0.
So what I've come before you today to ask is to reclassify 3 of our clerks. So right now, currently in the sheriff's office, we have 6 clerks. 3 of them are clerk 3 positions. 3 of them are senior clerk positions. When we started looking at this new warrant clerk position that I'll be coming to you in the next couple weeks to look at, we were hoping to make that clerk a senior clerk because the senior clerks have a little bit lower pay, and for budgeting purposes, that's kind of where we were hoping to go. When I met with Melissa, looking at the job descriptions, the responsibilities and duties that warrant clerk was going to have, after she reviewed it, she said that she did not feel that it would meet the senior clerk job descriptions. It was more of a clerk 3 position. So then that caused me to then look at our senior clerks, because that clerk was going to be doing the same work that our senior clerks are doing already, or very similar work for their job descriptions. So then I went back and started looking at the senior clerk positions. And it's my opinion that what we're asking our clerks to do today, all of our clerks should be at that clerk 3 level in the union contract. We're asking the clerks, those 3 senior clerks that are currently senior clerks. If this gets confusing, I'll stop and back up. But the 3 senior clerks that we have now, they have been tasked with doing some of the responsibilities of our clerk 3 clerks, meaning they will assist with doing gun permits, because we got overrun with gun permits back in January, February, and March as a result of the federal elections. They're assisting with doing all the NCIC work. So the job description is going to change for those 3 clerks that will make them more in line with the clerk 3 positions. So what we're asking is that those 3 senior clerks be bumped up to the clerk 3 positions, which amounts to a total increase of $14,035.62. That's salary and benefits for all 3 clerks. That's not per clerk, that's total, all 3 clerks. Which means for this year, what we're asking you to do is to approve that change in status effective November 1st, which is the next pay period, which means that for this, the rest of this fiscal year, it would be a $9,357.08 increase, but we are not asking for a budget amendment. We're not asking you to increase our budget. We feel that we can absorb that $9,000 increase within our budget that exists currently, because we have people in the jail that are still on military leave, and looking at our numbers, it should not affect the budget. We shouldn't have to ask for any more money. From an administrative point of view, what it allows us to do is keep our clerks in the positions that they're in right now. We have clerks that are doing jobs that are somewhat specialized that are senior clerks. But if a position opens that is a clerk 3 position, they may then want to put in for that because they can make a couple dollars an hour extra, and then we're moving people from a specialized clerk position into another position basically just so they can make more money. And I don't want to do that. We have people that have been with the organization for a while, do a great job in some positions that are difficult. And just so you know, the 3 senior clerk positions that would be bumping up are our main administrative clerk that's just inside the front lobby, our clerk that handles the sex offender registry, and then the jail clerk that's upstairs, who handles all the walk-up traffic to the jail. Those would be the 3 positions that I would ask you to bump up to the clerk 3 position.
What percent increase is this?
Percentage-wise, you know what, I'd have to get the calculator out.
I can do it.
I'll tell you right here. The clerk, the senior clerk, step 5, they're all step 5. Wage, the salary and benefits, it goes from $76,993 to $81,672.
5%.
You're gonna eat that in negotiations.
Well, I'm not asking you to change our budget. I'm just
No,
asking.
no,
you to authorize-
negotiations is a different topic.
Right. I mean, we gave you back $20,000 last year. We're very confident that the $9,357 that it's gonna take to cover that expense this year, we'll be able to find within our own.
This was probably all caused by COVID. I mean,
Could be.
Could I ask some? Sir. First off, I mean, the budget, the way the budget works is you're not asking for an amendment this year, but next year it will be built into labor costs. So you will.
Possibly.
No, not possibly. That's the way the budget works. It increases as soon as you put that in there.
Of course, but the board could then ask us to find $14,000 somewhere else in our budget to offset that
Right.
cost. So the overall budget may not increase at all next year. Even with this, I understand what you're saying.
So in the motion, we
It's going
just
to increase in
have
labor
to-
costs, but it could just move to a different line item.
in the motion, we just have to mention then that the funding comes from within your own budget, correct?
For the current year. You don't have to do a budget amendment for the current year, but it's built into the budget. And the only reason I'm speaking is because I've been consistent with this, is that I don't know how your department works and what you're changing for the duties of these folks that you're dealing with. But when it comes to collective bargaining, every time we do something like this, then the clerks in my department and every other department see the same thing happening, and they're approaching us and saying,
Guess what they got?
I mean, honestly, that's what occurs, and I've put this before the board for this reason, and I just want you to be aware of that when you move outside of the collective bargaining, because those, I always believe it's the employees that should be coming forward and asking when their job duties change. They should be approaching that through the collective bargaining.
Are these folks in collective bargaining?
Pardon?
Are these folks in collective bargaining?
Not currently, but those positions are union positions through AFSCME.
They are in the collective bargaining.
Then they're in collective bargaining.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
First, one question on the executive summary. Am I confusing, you say senior clerk grade 4 to clerk 3 grade 5, but then you mentioned all are at step 5. Is step different than grade?
Are you looking at the
backup sheet for the agenda, the top,
that was prepared by, part of that was prepared by Melissa, so I guess I can't speak for sure. It's my understanding that they all, because the CARA has recently attained the step 5. So I don't know if the grade, I don't know, I'm not familiar enough if that's just the language from the contracts or what that is, but they all are step 5, meaning, in my terminology, meaning they're at the highest pay scale within their pay grade.
so grade must just mean senior clerk. That's what, that's grade 4.
Yes, that's the way I took it.
And so you're saying, okay, so another question. The new hire, the warrant.
Yep, which I'll be
clerk,
coming to ask for that.
Would you still put that at a senior position then?
No, Melissa did not feel that it fit the senior position. That's what originally caused me to look at the rest of what we were doing, because these senior clerks are doing as much or more than what a warrant clerk is gonna do. And they all do each other's work, not to fulfill their job description when that clerk is gone, but they actually are doing it alongside that clerk who's making more money than they are, which from an administrative standpoint makes zero sense to me. They're doing the same work, but they're making a couple dollars an hour less than the gal that's sitting across the room from them, doing the same
So
work.
this had gone on as long as you can remember, and you just brought up because of this new hire
My
question?
memory of the sheriff's office is since January
Yeah.
2nd, so as long as, January 2nd for sure.
So if you had to rehire all these positions, you would say that they're all clerk 3
They would, yes.
roles
Yes.
for a beginner in all 6 positions?
Yes, because some of the things that we're asking them to do now is they do fingerprinting. So people come in off the street, they're fingerprinting people. Molly is, our front desk gal, is also entering e-file stuff, which is specifically mentioned in the clerk 3 job descriptions. So she is doing work that's already in the clerk 3 job descriptions. So I don't know if it's just because
So if you had
I'm
6.
new to the organization and somebody looking at it that hasn't looked at it before because I'm new to it, but once Melissa said, no, this warrants position is really a clerk 3, and I'm thinking, well, then they all probably should be, because they all do very similar or same work according to the job descriptions.
So they're all, perfectly cross-trained now, but if you were to hire 6 new, would you?
They would all continue to be cross-trained and do, because sometimes the warrants the weapons permits can go through the roof, and we might have 300 or 400 in a month, and then the next month it might be 100. Well, they're all expected to pitch in and do what we need to do to get the job done, because folks are expecting to get those things done. The warrants, they're all going to be cross-trained to do the warrants. Now, we'll have some of that alleviated with this, what I hope will be a new position in the next couple weeks, so that we can avoid any future irritation from DPS and the FBI, and we'll talk about that when I bring that forward to the board.
Is there a great difference in the starting hire for someone with lower experience between the 2 grades? Is it substantial?
You mean between a senior clerk and?
Yeah. Clerk 3?
Yeah, the senior clerk starting gross is, hold on, this one doesn't have it. There is a difference. A senior clerk, step one, I have an hourly rate of $19.54 is what I was given, up to $24.63, that's for a senior clerk. And the clerk 3 starting is $21.54 with a max of $26.54. So it amounts basically to about a $2 an hour difference in each one of the steps. I guess, you know, from an ability to, you know, oversee the positions, to me, it makes a whole lot more sense that if they're all doing the same work, they should all be compensated the same. And I understand your concern, but I don't know what your clerks do or what the clerks do in the county attorney's office or what they're doing. I can't speak for them. I can only speak for the folks that are working in our office. And we ask them to do a lot, and they're doing a lot of each other's same and similar work. And so for me, then it makes it easier as an administrator to say to Tammy, who's working with the sex offenders, who does a great job. She's one of the best in the state. The DCI absolutely loves the work that she does. But if this new warrants position comes open and it's a clerk 3, she may want to put in for that. And as I've told each one of those individual members, they do such a great job where they're at, and they're already doing all that other, I don't want them to take that other position.
Well, I mean, would that really confine you, though, if you have the authority to, I mean, they're already doing
No, of course not,
these-
but like one of them said to me today, so if I do a great job in this position, you're gonna punish me by not giving me an increase in pay to the higher grade clerk's position. And I said, no, you're absolutely right. That would be an unintended consequence that I don't want. I don't want somebody to feel like I don't want to do so good here that I can't get an opportunity to go here if that would mean more money.
From the transfer perspective?
Yes.
Okay.
So for me, to me, it's a thing that we can absorb into our budget, certainly in this fiscal year. And if you demand that next year we find that $14,000 somewhere else, then we'll do everything we need to do to find that $14,000 somewhere else. It just makes it so much easier for me as an administrator when they're all doing equal work, they're all getting equal pay.
There's two complete different topics here, though. I understand what you're saying about your people and what they do and all that. I don't know, having not looked at it, I don't know what that's all about, except the other side of that is a 5% increase when you get to collective bargaining. Who has asked me? Bonnie?
I
Or
don't
is it
think she does.
Danny Holman.
Probably Danny.
They're going to eat the committee alive with a 5% increase. I mean, they're going to demand that across the board, probably 8, 9 to start, and they'll end up at 5 and they'll dig their heels in because you did it. I mean, that's rough in negotiations when you got something like that sitting out there. Really rough.
The way I look at it is you've saved yourself that 5% that they probably should have been paid over the last 4 or 8 years that they've been.
That's a whole different topic.
Yeah, and aren't you in a stronger position to say no when you've been managing your people in the way that he's suggesting? He might have a tough time at the negotiating table, but if he's being proactive and he's trying to apply the contract as written to the job that the people are actually doing, it puts him and everybody else who's doing those negotiations in a much more position to negotiate tough when it's time to do it again.
If I were doing it, I would do 2.5 now and 2.5 later. Then when you get to
Can't really
bargaining,
negotiate that, though.
well,
It's, unless we
either-
want to open a contract.
They either go, I mean, unless I've misunderstood this, they either go up to the next grade or they don't. There is no in between.
We're getting closer to merit-based pay, is what you're suggesting. You're suggesting these people need to be paid more because of the job that they're doing?
I think that they should be paid for the job that they're doing when the other clerks are already being paid at that level and they're doing the same amount of work and they're already doing it.
And with respect, come renegotiation time, the people that are doing more work have earned those pay increases by virtue of the job that they've been doing.
That's why
You're not just gonna give it away for free come
yes,
negotiation
that's
time.
why there's multiple levels. There's a clerk 2, clerk 2, a senior clerk, and a clerk 3. So I'm just going off of the job, I didn't make up these job descriptions. I inherited these,
I
but I'm
support
just
what
saying
you're
that,
doing, 'cause I
yeah,
think
the senior clerks are already doing clerk 3 work.
Puts you in a stronger position to manage your department.
It also makes it easier to keep good employees, and right now, the job market, and that was something that Melissa and I talked about, the job market, it's harder, there's opportunities for clerks to go and probably make more money even than what they're gonna make at the class 3 level, but at least it makes it easier to keep them.
So below this, there's clerk 2, and then senior clerk and clerk 3, is there?
Yeah, clerk 3 is the highest, senior clerk is the middle, and then a clerk 2 is the lowest. At least that's my understanding of it.
And you wouldn't have any of the lower ones after?
There wouldn't be, and we don't have any 2s either, regardless. The only thing that we have currently is senior clerks and clerk 3s.
So when was this last negotiated? As far as the comments about the workers bringing it up during the process, you know, was it a couple years ago?
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of mid-year, you know, reclassifying just 3 employees in one department without some kind of review. I guess I don't know how I would suggest going about that without it costing the county a fortune.
It should come up after the budget and negotiations are done.
January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking the contract negotiation?
Well,
See,
I'm not-
I don't
I'm
think-
not-
I don't
I'm not
think this
talking-
has anything to do at all with the contract negotiation.
Oh, yes, it does.
well, I kind of feel like it
It's
should
either-
wait till,
They're either doing the work of a clerk 3 or they're not doing the work of a clerk
Yeah.
3. It has nothing to do with negotiated wage. The wages are set. Now, they'll negotiate a wage later that will affect your budget. I get that. All I'm asking you to do is authorize them to be a clerk 3, which is the work that they're already doing, and they have been doing. Apparently, nobody's looked at it. So, but once it was brought to my attention that the clerk that we're gonna ask to add doesn't meet a senior clerk because of the job descriptions, it immediately made me say, well, if that doesn't fit a senior clerk, none of the other 3 that we have as senior clerks should be senior clerks either.
did you
So
just,
out of, you know, I don't like using the word fair because life's not fair, but out of equality,
Life's not equal.
to me, it made perfect sense that then, if that's the work they're doing, that's how they should be compensated. And as far as this fiscal budget, perhaps next year, because you guys get to make that decision. You can say, no, Sheriff, you wanted this, and it's 14,000 more this year, so you're gonna have to figure it out, and then we'll figure it out.
and that's where, I hate to say, but maybe it should wait till the January, you know, discuss it as an improvement request, and I don't know if you think that's right or fair as a budget analyst, but.
Well, I could,
The contract sets the pay per position. It does not limit how many are in that position. So if he feels and can justify to the board, move 3 up to senior, to clerk 3, really didn't have anything to do with the contract, because the position salary is established every time you do it.
Are there
Doesn't limit
other-
how many people can be in that position.
Are there other clerk 3s that work for Woodbury County? Not the sheriff's department. Are there other clerk 3s that work for Woodbury County?
I would assume, but I don't know.
And that's where I think the point on negotiation is coming up. Is we're not talking about sheriff's department clerk 3s. We're talking about the next time everybody comes to negotiate again for the entire county.
But they're all negotiated at the same wage.
But
We have clerk threes in our office that, a couple of them, because they have supervisory duties. They are above the rest of those.
And that's where I think there's a concern, where there's maybe some sour grapes, right?
Pardon?
And that's where I think the concern is that there could be sour grapes in the future, and where that puts us maybe in a weaker position come negotiation time. Is there other clerk threes in the county? You're making a decision for clerk threes within the sheriff's department, which I support, okay? But that could have an effect on other clerk threes in the county and other department heads, you know, their budgets and,
And it does.
Yep.
yeah.
So just a reminder, I'm not a department head, and none of the clerk 3 descriptions that we have for any of our clerks are supervisory positions. They're based on the job descriptions and the responsibilities that they have. If they were supervisory, if that's the only clerk 3 positions were supervisory, I could see that argument, but that's not the case in our office. These clerk 3s are not supervisory positions. They're clerk 3s based on their job descriptions, which were already in existence. And I guess all I'm trying to convey to you is that our senior clerks are already doing the work according to the clerk 3 job descriptions.
And you discussed the 3 senior clerks with Melissa as well, or just the one that you were thinking, the warrant?
No, those 3 senior clerks, Melissa and I have talked about it, and she let me know that I will have to make sure that I can point out what they're doing different from a senior clerk, so that so that we can show that we're justifying them moving up to that clerk 3 position. I mean, I highlighted some. They all do NCIC, they're all NCIC certified, which is a job description under the clerk 3 position. They're all cross-trained in doing the sex offender stuff, which is also under NCIC certification. Assisting in gun permits, accessing NCIC stuff. Warrant entry and validations, again, the NCIC work. They're doing fingerprinting, so they're taking people in off the street, fingerprinting people.
Sure, can I just
Yep.
butt in for 1 second?
Yep.
Have we approved anything like this in the past without a job description in front of us?
Not that I know.
I mean, and this is,
Yep.
I know how I'm gonna vote already, but I'm saying I would rather see the job description in front of me to help me make that determination, because I believe, I won't swear to it, but I believe that in the past, a job description was included with the, or what, the job description was included with the, I don't want to call it the backup material, but to help in our decision for ourselves.
Would the job description just be what the
The job
clerk
description.
3s are?
Yeah, all I would say is the job description exists. If you want me to hand you this job description, I can hand you a clerk 3 job description.
So we're not necessarily looking at changing a job description, we're simply looking at,
Yeah, no, what I would really
Moving.
be handing you is, here's the things that the senior clerks are doing that is in the clerk 3 job description. I'm not really looking to change any particular job descriptions. That's why I think they should be bumped up to the clerk 3, is because there's multiple things on here that they're already doing that's in that description. So, I mean, I'm not asking to change the job descriptions. I'm just
Okay.
asking to take them, but I see your point. If I was looking to change it, yeah.
okay.
But I mean, I could certainly, if it would make you feel better, I could certainly, I mean, I have some notes here, which I'd be willing to share with you, but.
You're not looking to change the job description, you're not looking to move people into job descriptions that they're not qualified for. And just for, where are we at? I will make a motion to approve the reclassification of the 3 as stated on the agenda item.
Second?
Second by Wright.
Personally, I'd rather see us defer this at least to January as an improvement request myself. Because, we classify so many positions per department, and this is essentially changing that as an improvement request. And if you add a
Just so you.
a warrant clerk too, I mean, that's an improvement request, you know.
Right, I just so you're aware of what you would be doing is you would be then delaying that. So we have somebody retiring, one of our records clerks, who's a clerk 3, is gonna retire. If we delay it, then one of those senior clerks, who I would consider kind of specialty clerks, they may put in for one of those other positions to get the $2 an hour increase, which is not beneficial to the sheriff's office.
An improvement request submitted at the budget time does not take effect until July 1st unless the board makes an exception. If you make exception, then do it now. Why delay it? And then if Pat's got people, other elected officials got them, then you come to the board, present their case to them, that they're doing the same jobs, whatever.
And
That's
just-
where I hate to see us do one here today, and then all of a sudden, next week, we got
And I
2
will-
more, and then
Take the
2
risk
more.
of some coming
And,
possible.
Yeah.
and just so you know, the 3 clerks that this is going to affect did not come to me and ask for this. They didn't even know that this was in the works. I had been working with Melissa on this for probably 3 weeks before they were made aware of it. I made them aware of it the end of last week.
Shouldn't that come from the union? If they feel that they're
Well,
not being
No,
compensated?
no, I don't. Because I think if, as the leader of the organization, when I recognize that something isn't right, it's my responsibility to take care of the people in the office, which is something that when I took over, as part of our culture, I wanted to make sure that the leaders in the organization always put our people first. Because if we put our people first, they will take care of the public.
Do you think I don't do that in my office?
I'm not saying that. You asked me if I felt
I'm just telling you the morale.
You asked me if I
employees.
felt that I should wait until the union. No. Once I know there's something that I think is unfair or unequitable, I feel it's my responsibility to take care of it. I'm not saying that it's unequitable in your office. It's probably not. But in my particular case, I felt that it was unequitable, that the
Right.
3 were
Maybe
doing the
this,
work of the clerk 3s.
You know, maybe the group think of the board has changed. But historically, whenever I've tried to do anything like this, I've been told it's up to collective bargaining in order for folks to make those decisions. I am an elected official too. I understand that.
I wasn't pointing the finger at anyone. You asked me if I should wait until they asked for it, and I think the answer is no. If I felt that it was wrong, I should bring it to the board. That's what I'm doing.
So, I mean, I think they can come from both sources, union and elected official. It is a fair question to me why it didn't come through that process. And just so I understand, the number of classifications, the makeup is part of bargaining, as far as eliminating one and changing it to, I mean, could you change a senior clerk to a clerk 3 through the bargaining process?
What we've always been told by HR is in order to change those before collective bargaining, is there has to be a change in the job duties, and the description is changed.
And he's saying that's satisfied by them fulfilling the job
The
duties
work
of
that
the
we're
clerk
asking them to
3.
do. I mean, that's what it is. Now, am I asking them to do maybe a little more than they were previously asked to do? Perhaps. Asking them to do other tasks that maybe they weren't doing before? Yes. And that's why I think they fit that class 3, or the clerk 3.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's why, like, you hit the nail on the head of why I'm so enthusiastic supportive of this, is because you're taking some proactive steps to treat your people in the job well without, you're not disregarding the union, but you see something as a leader that needs to be done for your people, and you're not going to sit around and wait for the union to put the pressure on you to do it. I live, my main job, my only job here in 9 months when this circus is over, is I live in that world where I have an administrator I have to answer to, but I'm a member of a union. And so sometimes I'm very much in the middle, and I want my administrators to be more proactive and to act in my interest, in my behalf. They won't. They won't because of the influence of the union. So that's why I appreciate what you're doing. Is because if I want to go to an administrator at my job and say, hey, I'm busting my rear end, I want a raise, talk to the union. And I think a step like this moves the sheriff's department closer to what I would see as being a better model for managing an organization, where you're, as the leader of the organization, you get to call those shots and you get to make decisions that you see best for your people. And you don't have a third party with great intentions influencing the decisions that you're trying to make, which may not always be in line with the way that you think. So that's why I think this is a great idea.
Well, and, you know, I'm still maybe perhaps a little naive. I thought the fact that this wasn't going to affect the budget wasn't going to be a big, long discussion, because we were going to absorb the cost into what you've already allotted us for a budget. And I knew that if it's 14,000 more in the next fiscal budget, you would have the authority to say, hey, figure it out. You came and asked for it. You be careful what you ask for. Okay, we'll figure it out in the next fiscal budget. Go ahead, sorry.
And not to dispossess your people of what their job descriptions or responsibilities are, I know he mentioned Nick's checks. I got a side gig going where I'm in contact with them a lot, and if you don't have your T's crossed and I's dotted and that kind of stuff, and this is not, I know your people have the same thing, Pat, with elections and everything else that you got going in your office. I'm acquainted with some of the headaches and nightmares if you don't have something right, but
They're doing
and as well as the DPS and others that are involved in this. But I do hesitate, because not because you brought it up, Sheriff, but because the union did not. I know that the union is almost never going to say no to getting their members more money. But
If I may
and
ask.
another thing, I'm sorry, one more thing, Matt.
Sorry.
I think the board is constantly being asked for one-off things. You know, well, you know what I'm saying? We're asked to do this.
Do we know, or why doesn't the union have any, I mean, did you approach the union before you just?
Melissa did for the new job description, for the new warrants clerk.
Just for that
job
one?
Description, because that will be a new position, because right now our warrants are being done by a correctional officer.
But did
But
they
now-
say, this is a clerk
They
3?
They approved the clerk 3 classification.
Who did that?
Melissa with the union.
Okay.
And the union hasn't had anything to say about these 3?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Just wondering why. That's
I think because in the past, they've always been told no. So,
by,
I don't know, because that's the way it's always been done. Which again,
Bury that mentality.
I told our people, if you ever tell anybody that, you shouldn't be in my administration, because that's the way it's always been done. Maybe it's always been done wrong for 30 years.
Sheriff, do you have any of the history as far as, I believe sometime in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, the sex offender clerk went from the senior clerk to a clerk 3? I seem to recall having that discussion several years ago.
She's
And that-
currently at a senior clerk, so I don't think she would have went down. She may have been a 2 and went to a senior, but that I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But she's currently a senior clerk. So I don't know why they didn't just name them 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
But she's at the middle one
Yeah.
currently.
So a few years back, we had a similar discussion of this as far as classifying the clerk, and I think the job description was redone at that time. But at that time, there was a strong differentiation that was being made as far as this clerk is doing this and other clerks are doing different things. I don't think you have the cross-training, but.
Yeah, so
I didn't know if any of
now
that
we
history
expect,
helped the board or not.
yeah, I don't know the history, but now the expectation is that Molly, the front desk clerk, she does sex offender stuff to assist Tammy. The Kara will assist doing anything that's up there, and that's where the warrant clerks are at. And she'll assist and do that. They also assist and do her job. And it's not, I know Melissa, when I talked to Melissa, she said that if somebody fulfills a position, and Pat, you might be able to help me with this, if they fulfill a position for 10 days or more and it's a higher grade position, then they automatically start getting paid at that higher deal. I'm not saying that our gals are filling in somebody's absence. I'm saying they're working alongside them at simultaneously doing the same work while they're both there. That, to me, that's the the difference. So, but.
So based on the 10 days, you think they should have already been bumped up?
No, I'm not gonna go there. I don't wanna say that, because that, I think, could open up Pandora's box that you don't necessarily wanna open up, but. I mean, what I'm saying is, one argument to not giving them the pay increase would be if they're doing that work while that person's gone, then you would say, well, you don't need to increase them to a clerk 3, because the language already exists that they will get that clerk 3 pay once they've done it for 10 days. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that they're working right alongside of them, simultaneously doing the work so that work can get done, so those NICS checks can be done, so that we can get those permits out in the time that the state is requiring us to get those out. And you know, back in January and February, it was tough. It required all hands on deck to get some of that done. So.
Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Monson,
No.
Raddick,
No.
Ung,
Aye.
Wright,
Yes.
DeWitt.
Aye.
Yes means the same thing as I, right?
Aye. Passes 3-2 with Misters Monson and Radig opposed.
Thank you.
Reports on committee meetings. I want to thank Dawn for coming in and taking my place on the Rolling Hills stuff. That was, I would strongly echo what she said. How about that?
Can we have Mr. Nara do a very short thing on the Summit Carbon Solutions?
Short is relative with Mr. Nara.
You need some oil?
Summit Carbon Solutions has made a request to the Iowa Utility Board to run a liquefied carbon dioxide pipeline across Iowa. One branch of that pipeline is proposed to come into Woodbury County from Nebraska. It will come along the south side of town, south of the airport, and then pretty much go straight north up into Plymouth County. They have permission following their public hearing, which was held October 16th, I believe it was. Whatever date that, I guess it was September 16th, to begin contacting county landowners in an effort to seek an easement across all of the lands along the path of the pipeline.
Ooh.
So that work has begun. Woodbury County is a landowner. I'm meeting with one of their agents on Friday to look at the parcels of Woodbury County-owned land that they're going to be crossing. Some are managed by conservation, some are tax parcels that we've taken back in. All of the secondary road rights of way would require an easement for Summit Carbon. Once they have those easements, at the same time, they're also working with the Iowa Utilities Board to get a permit, which will allow them to construct this pipeline across the state.
So it's kind of moving into a done deal.
It's moving that way, yes. Their proposed time for construction is in 2023 and 2024 for the development of this. It stretches all the way over to Floyd and Chickasaw counties in eastern Iowa. The main branch runs 2 tiers of counties north of us. It'll be coming through Sioux County as it heads into South Dakota and then up into North Dakota. The pipeline is designed to carry pressurized liquid carbon dioxide, so it's cold, it's, you know, like liquid oxygen or liquid nitrogen that you dump a tennis ball in and it shatters. It's going to be pumped into sequestration wells in North Dakota. Apparently they've already secured the rights for that. It'll be about 1.5 miles underground. Supposedly the stuff can never get out. The idea is that in the theory of carbon credits, that they're reducing the carbon load created by fertilizer plants, power plants, and ethanol plants in the production of their material. The Board of Supervisors is required by Iowa code to hire a engineering consultant firm that will monitor the progress and construction of that pipeline. Basically, it's your duty under the code to protect the properties through which that easement will be traveling. Typically, this involves 3 stages. They come out, they stockpile the topsoil. You have a technician monitoring that. Then they cut the trench for placing the pipeline. That trench is backfilled, the topsoil is put back over the top, so the contractor is monitoring all that as they go through, making sure that any field tile are being repaired, fences are repaired, whatever other private property might be damaged in the course of the construction. The board's been solicited by at least 2 pipeline companies, engineering consulting firms that are interested in doing the pipeline work. I've contacted local contractors. DGR has turned in a statement of qualifications and are interested in pursuing the...
So they're going through you?
Right now they are, yes. I'm trying to help out, I guess.
Well, somebody's got to.
Yeah, somebody's got to do that work. I was asked to contact local companies by Supervisor Raddick. I've contacted 3. DGR was the only one that returned a statement of qualification. So we were looking at somebody who's got one of their main offices located here in Sioux City.
Yep. And I would like to see us give DGR the work if we have the option to, because somebody else is paying the bill anyway, and why not give her own
The board doesn't have to
job?
pay. Well, you pay initially, and then you submit the bill to the pipeline, they reimburse us. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Mr. Reddick?
We had a Simcoe meeting discussing future due schedules. The dues were figured off a formula from like 30 years ago. Obvious population changes with recent census. Basically, there's a few organizations that are going to pay the most increases, and while Sioux City and Sergeant Bluff are both 2 of the bigger ones, Woodbury County was a very large percentage increase because the formulas are going to be changed to treat all members equally. Now, when I say a big increase, I may be talking 2,500 up to like 5,000. It's a 200% increase, but they're going to make that go over 4 years. So they're going to kind of step us in 25% a year on the due increase. Just letting you guys know that that's coming out there, because it'll probably affect us more when we add all our little, 401k program there for the rural governments where we pay. But some of those smaller cities actually went down in their dues, just not too many in Woodbury County.
Mr. Owen?
I went to Greece.
I'm sorry?
I went to Greece.
Mr. Ray?
I caught COVID.
Yay. Round 2 of citizen concern.
Wait a minute, I have a couple. Conservation Board met. They have water flowing through Snyder's Bend now, and I think they put some fish in there. They got rid of all the fish that was in there. And it was a confusing discussion, but Mid-American's pumping water into Browns Lake, but it's real low. They've been.
That's straight from the river.
Yeah, it is. It's, but they're willing to do it. One of the guys on that board lives out there, and he's pretty concerned, so, and I got a friend that's out there. The other one I went to was this morning, the Soil and Water Conservation group. Interesting group. They provide matching funds for cover crops and those kinds of things, and long discussion, so that's it. That's all I got.
Round two,
Board concerns?
yeah, let's
I
go.
did want to say it was unique that Don Mensner was here when Matthew gets back from Greece, because Don takes the grease out of your way.
Oh, man.
That hurt.
Man, you should be beat for that one. We are adjourned.